Bullets First hit the road this week. We went up to Mount Holyoke College to see fellow Second Amendment advocate Antonia Okafor give a speech to the mostly liberal university. She was hosted by Cassie Dillon and the college Republicans up there. The following is basically the highlights and some questions and answers that Ms. Okafor gave. And at the end of that, some hot takes from a few members in the audience.
Thank you guys so much for having me here at Mount Holyoke. I wanted to personally thank Mount Holyoke College Republicans for hosting me and Cassie Dillon for letting me stay here. Because first of all, I feel like I have to kind of address the elephant in the room, and no, it's not about being a Republican either this time. So I was supposed to speak at a neighborhood college called Hampshire College, and yesterday, but then 2 hours before I was supposed to speak, something mysterious happened in the administrative side. So I was literally about to leave the hotel room when I got a text from one of the students that hosted me at Hampshire, telling me that the dean of Hampshire College decided to cancel my speech. And I remember at that time, because I was about to head out the door and thinking, I didn't see that correctly, until I started getting a phone call, and then an email. And then it became very real to me that here I was trying to have this speech and talk to these students about empowerment, with the female empowerment and the Second Amendment, but someone didn't think that was appropriate for me to do at that time. And so I found out not too long afterwards that the email that I received said that not only did they cancel my speech, but they deemed my speech topic, which is, if you have not guessed, about the Second Amendment, to be, quote, very controversial. And for those who don't know me, other than my speech or my video that talks a little bit about my background, I am a campus carry activist. And I believe that students have every right to be able to protect themselves off campus as they do on campus. That if you have a concealed carry permit, that you should be able to have that permit be able to protect your life when you step on this arbitrary line called the college university. So with campus carry, I started it in 2015, and I started it, to be honest, in a very selfish manner. Like I said before, I'm a feminist, and I'm very vocal about saying I'm a feminist. And that aspect of it is what made me decide that I wanted to be a gun rights activist. See, because I'm a feminist, because I believe that every woman should be able to protect themselves, that yes, physically, because of science, they are weaker than a man, that they should have the greatest equalizer, a firearm, to be able to, if they so choose, protect themselves on or off campus. And so I became the Southwest Director of Students for Concealed Carry. If you don't know about that organization, then maybe you'll know the fact that if Texas right now, you guys know that they have campus carry. Well, that's because of Students for Concealed Carry. And I think a lot of people were very surprised to find the fact that I, a black woman, would be advocating for something like that. That I would not only have a firearm, but that I would be an activist, pushing it on college campuses, not just in Texas, but eventually nationally. I didn't grow up with firearms. I'm not the typical gun rights activist. My father didn't take me to go hunting or anything like that. In fact, I didn't start shooting until a couple of years ago. And I think that's what people identify with the most. See, I'm pretty sure most people here probably had the same type of lifestyle that I did. They didn't really have firearms in their home. And if anything, they were fearful of it. But what's most important is what we do today and what we are today. And it's not my background that really defines me, it's who I am today and how I am an activist today and what I believe today. And what I believe today is that in order for anybody to be able to protect themselves completely, they have to have every means to the greatest way of protecting myself. Why can't I, as a law-abiding, responsible person, not be able to protect myself in the exact same manner that that criminal is going to protect themselves? And so me and 2 other women, college women, believed the same thing as well. And so we decided that we would start an organization called Empowered. Empowered is a national student organization for young women on college campuses because of the very fact that we believe that a woman should definitely be the ones who should be able to have the decision of whether they should choose to have a firearm on campus or not. The narrative right now is always, or has always been, about in mainstream media that people like me, women that look like me, who think like me, and who look like Lydia and who look like Joanna, that they would never be for gun rights, that they would never be for something like campus carry or concealed carry or the NRA even. But I think we're here to show you, obviously, that that's not true. And history has shown in many different fashions, whether it's from Venezuela or whether you're an African American woman like me, who, by the way, is the fastest growing demographic of gun owners in America, that we are for gun rights. Why? Because you think of it this way, if you're gonna think about the aspect of being a minority, why would you, knowing you're a law-abiding citizen, want to take away your right to protect yourself from, say, a bigot in this scenario, who is intent on doing harm to you regardless? Why wouldn't you want a way to protect yourself in the equal measure and force that that criminal is trying to hurt you? And just like a woman, if you have the opportunity and the opportunity to help someone else, why wouldn't you want to be able to have the tool and the power to be able to defend yourself in the equal force and tool and opportunity than the criminal who's intent on doing harm to you or someone that you love? I think that's something that really has transcended politics. And I've had women come up to me who have said, you know what, Antonia, I don't agree with your politics at all, but I do finally understand that this firearm that you talk about, which I once thought was something there only to harm you, is actually something that if I know how to use, I can use it in order to defend myself and defend the life of those I care about. And I think it's important with this narrative that's going around right now and that has for so many years, that it's important that we talk about the aspect that it's not really political. And I think a lot of African Americans and a lot of women are seeing that. And I think it's no accident that Black women are the ones who are the fastest growing, because they're continuing to see that at a faster rate. They're continuing to see that because, just like me, a woman who grew up in a single mother household with no father, and the father that was in prison for 20 years, that when it comes down to it, when the seconds matter, that I'm the one who's going to be able to protect my own life, not someone else. And so I want to empower myself, regardless of my race or my gender or my sexual orientation. I want to empower myself before someone else takes that power from me. Thank you, guys.
I do think that Mount Holyoke is very happy that you're here to some extent, because we do need to have more of these conversations on campus, because it's important to know that people have these conversations on other campuses. And so I understand your personal feelings of safety of carrying firearms. I personally don't feel comfortable, and I was wondering, what are other avenues of advocacy that you think can actually help resolve the need for firearms for protection? Or do you think that carrying firearms is the only way?
No, I don't think carrying firearms is the only way. I deter and I change from a lot of people who think, if you don't have a firearm, that's it. For me, as a woman, I think it's important that we should have any access to any self-defense tool that we so choose. But I think it's really good, really, that I'm here in Massachusetts and I'm here at Mount Holyoke, where I was concerned about security because security is not armed. I was concerned that no one here is allowed, if they're a law-abiding citizen, is able to protect themselves, is able to have a firearm, or even sometimes have a pepper spray or a taser. That's what the laws were actually dealing with. People want to make it only about the firearm, but most of college campuses in this country not only don't allow a firearm, They don't allow tasers. They don't allow pepper spray. So what is it really about? It's not about guns or firearms in general. It's about, do we empower our students to be able to protect themselves on campus, just like they should be able to be empowered and have the right to be able to protect themselves off campus. And right now we're not doing a very good
If
job.
you wanted you to the understanding at the time, and if you could just elaborate in general on your ideas, rights, because you've been making a pragmatic argument about self-defense for the most part.
Yeah, so when it comes to the Second Amendment and self-defense, the Supreme Court has time and time again in the last few years, the last decade really, has enforced and proven that, that the Second Amendment is there to make sure that we have a right to be able to keep and bear arms. And whether it's the 2008 D.C. Heller case or it's the McDonald versus Chicago case. Both of them basically enforced and shown that we constitutionally have a right to protect ourselves in the home and with self-defense. Mm-hmm.
Hi, Antonia. Tony Leva with Bullets First. A lot of great questions, so I scratched a bunch off my list. But I still do have one. One of my favorite Supreme Court justices is Clarence Thomas. Mm-hmm. And he at one point came under attack, and he described it as a high-tech lynching for uppity blacks who in any way deign to think for themselves, to do for themselves, to have different ideas. And it is a message that unless you kowtow to an old order, that is what will happen to you. I was wondering if you had any experience like dealing with this, maybe on Twitter. We'll bring up Twitter blowhard. Tariq Nasheed at one point called you a white supremacist.
Yeah, well, white supremacist collaborator.
Oh, collaborator, of course. So I'm just curious if you wouldn't mind talking a little bit about maybe some of that you faced, being not only a woman who's a pro-gun advocate, but as a woman of color.
Absolutely. I think, when I decided to become instead of being a closet conservative and then become, a very vocal one, I remember making the decision for myself that it'd be very, very easy for me to just be a closet conservative and let no one ever know who I really was or my values. And then I thought about the fact that the left does a very good job of trying to make it seem that if you have any type of conservative leanings whatsoever, that you are a racist or a sexist or a misogynist. And from personally seeing that myself for so long, I was very adamant in realizing that I had to step up and stand out for those who do have beliefs that are closer to mine. And yes, they're African American, and yes, they are women. And yes, a lot of them are immigrants, because they tend to also have very conservative and traditional beliefs. And I know that because my parents are Nigerian immigrants, and they have very conservative and traditional beliefs. But yet, they still vote for Democrats. Why is that? So I had part of my aha moment when I went to the 2012 Women for Obama luncheon. I was very gung-ho for Obama at that time in Dallas. Very excited, went there, and they had a national political strategist and director there. And I remember behind me, a couple rows behind me, there was this coalition of small business African-American women behind me. And they raised their hand after listening to this woman talk about the strategies for the Obama campaign for the next year. And they asked the woman, so we keep hearing, your strategies and your outreach for all these other groups, but we don't hear any of the strategies for the African American community. Why is that? And this woman tells them, and everyone in the room, oh, well, last time they voted for Obama, over 95% of them voted for Obama, so we don't really have to do anything on that front. Yeah, this national political director said that at a Women for Obama luncheon. And I remember looking at them, and then them looking at me, and here we are, very pro-Obama. And us both looking at each other like, does this woman understand what she just told us? And then me asking myself that question, do I understand what this woman just told us? that, they think they have it in the bag. I mean, why not? They've had 95% and over when it comes to African American community voting for them for so long, then why would they want to do any more work in order to get them to vote on their side? They don't need to. And that's when I started to ask more questions. Regardless of whether I'm going to choose one party or the other, there's something to be looked at there. If my community, the community that I love and that I want to grow and prosper, and is dear to me, obviously, because I'm an African American woman, why is it that there have been for so long taken advantage of, and I don't see any progress when it comes to poverty rates, being more entitled or having more entitlements or being dependent on the government, and then with gun rights? Why is it that all the statistics have shown that it's going the opposite direction? And you know what? A lot of people are having that same conversation as well. But people don't like it when you talk about that. People, for example, BET wrote an article about me where they didn't like the fact that I would be talking about all this stuff. And I think that my very small minority of people in the African American community who don't want other people to talk about these issues in the broader sense are really covering up for the fact that there are other people just like me who have these same views, and they're afraid to speak up and speak out about them, because if you're a black woman, if you're a black man, then you have to vote as a Democrat. And I think I'm part of this new wave of people, minorities, changing their mindset and saying that's not true. What am I voting for?
Yeah, what is the future you want?
The future I want is to be able to, regardless of where I come from, my background, my family, whether they were poor and where they were for a long time, or they're from another country, that they're able to have the American dream that my family came to America for. And like I said, fiscally now, the fact of the matter that my mom came here for me to have a better life than her, but now statistically I'm geared to not have a better life than her, is changing the American dream.
Are you having a better life than her?
Absolutely, I have a better life than her.
Are you profiting?
We have lines to ask questions. Thank you. Alright, go ahead.
So it's all right. We're gonna move forward.
I'm happy to engage you. I like I said, this is important to me. The reason why I decided to be vocal about this is because I want to help my community. And I wouldn't be here, I wouldn't be an activist, I wouldn't be speaking here when I know most people here probably don't agree with me, if I wasn't passionate about changing the direction of this country, if I wasn't passionate about changing those who look like me to have a better life than what we have today. And I did not see that with the party that I voted for twice. And that is why I am passionate about changing the direction of my country through different value sets.
Hi. What's it called? I was wondering, do you believe, as a black woman as well as a first-generation American, you provide a unique perspective on conservatism? And how so? And do you feel that this perspective and the nuances that may be necessary to it are appreciated by your conservative peers?
Okay, so the first question, I do believe, as my family being immigrants, that they have a unique value set and that they grew up with basically ideals that I think most people in America also believe in: entrepreneurship, hard work, the equalizer. And those alone, I think, is the fabric of America, and a lot of people believe in that, and they also happen to be very conservative values as well. My mom is probably more conservative than me, but she voted for Hillary, and then my family as well, they voted for Bernie, although they're very pro-life, although the values that I have today were nurtured from the belief system that my family had. So I think a lot of people have that disconnect because the left has done a very good job of saying, and I see this from my parents all the time, you know what, I believe, for example, I believe what Trump is saying, but he's a racist, right? Like, that is how they always get to the bottom line of it, of I believe what this person, this party is saying, the principles that they're talking about, that's why I'm here in America, but I can't be pro-gun because cops are racist. Unfortunately, that is how people are able to stop this narrative and stop the conversation. And that's why it's important that we have debates like this and we have conversations like this on campuses, but in America in general. And that's why we've seen this very orchestrated effort to stop speech in general, because if people have these conversations, they might change their mind. They might become a me in 5 years. And I think that's scary to some people.
So I wanted to get to the simple core of this situation and unpack the censored portion of this talk so far. You are suggesting putting at the hands of law-abiding citizens the right to take life. And of course, you are saying that if and only if they're in the circumstance of being faced by criminals. So can you please describe to us what you envision, what this looks like when a victim and perpetrator, both armed, meet face to face? How does a law-abiding citizen protect themselves? How do they know when to shoot? Where do they shoot? And how do they practice, as part of the licensing and preparation to own a firearm, the art of self-defense and not the perpetration of further aggression that already exists because of these criminals we defend ourselves from?
Okay. Well, thanks for clapping and snapping for me, because you made my point. So basically, yeah, the fact of the matter is that it's the person should be able to have the training, and there's training out there in order to do all of those things, to figure out when it's best to be able to shoot someone who's trying to harm them in that situation, when it's legally viable, when it's legally credible, and that's state by state. So all of these are already out there and available for those who want to pursue more training, particularly with the firearm, self-defense as well. So all of those things are already available to most people. What my thing is that they should be able to have that right first on college campuses especially, and that then, yes, there should be training available to those people who want to be able to utilize that firearm for self-defense, but they're gonna have to get the training in order to do so.
And just a little follow-up question to that, because there is physical training, but there's also like a huge emotional preparation for being faced in these situations that you can't plan for, right? So what is the part of that program that basically prepares these law-abiding citizens to know how to make decisions in such emotionally traumatic situations?
Yeah, absolutely. There's plenty of training. NRA does a lot of training out there, a lot of standard training for refuse to be a victim, and different types of self-defense training where you go through scenarios like that. There's your local gun range where they have instructors who also go through scenarios like that. So there's training out there. It's available. It's open to the public. And it's something that if you're going to take that responsibility into your own hands, that you also have to be a responsible gun owner, and statistically they are responsible gun owners, and they're going to make sure that they have the training in order to do so. But I think it comes down to the fact that having a gun is a personal responsibility. It also is a way of being able to personally protect yourself. It's not about campus protection. It's not about becoming Superman and being able to save the day when something bad happens. It's about the fact that I want the right as an individual, a law-abiding citizen, me, you, to be able to protect yourselves in case something does happen. The scenario or the result of that is going to depend on you, and I think that's why it's important that we have this sense of responsibility and personal responsibility that is lacking these days. But we can definitely bring about when it comes to being a gun owner.
Hi, Antonia.
Hello.
So I just wanted to ask, I agree with you about campus carry, but I just wanted to ask, one of the things that students will usually say to me, which I'm not convinced by, but they'll usually say to me, Brad, how can you think that we should let college students have guns on campus? Have you seen how many parties there are at UMass? Have you seen how much alcohol there is?
Yeah.
So I wanted to know how you kind of explain away that concern for skeptics of campus carry.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, the fact of the matter is that the law does not change when you have a firearm on campus. If you're not supposed to be drunk and then also have a firearm, just like you're not supposed to be off campus. So when the people say that question, or they use that, for one, most of the time fraternities and the example are usually private property in their own type of vicinity locations. But two, that person who is not supposed to be doing something, otherwise they'll get their license to carry taken away off campus. If they're not doing what they're supposed to be doing in other situations off campus, then they're probably going to be doing that same thing on campus. But the fact of the matter is that statistics have shown that students are, those who have license to carry are law-abiding citizens and they follow the law. Otherwise, they're going to lose their license in the first place.
Hi. Thank you for coming.
Hi.
So my question is a bit similar to one that was already asked. My question is, are there any regulations on gun ownership you support? And if so, can you explain what they are and sort of how you decide what regulations you think should be enforced?
Yeah, well, so I believe that, for example, with campus carry, I'm a concealed carry activist. And so, for example, in Texas, you have to be 21 years of age and older in order to get your license. You have to pass a criminal and mental health background check. You have to pass almost 21 other requirements in order to just even obtain your license. And then the other aspect of having your firearm as well. So there are plenty of regulations that are already on the books right now that have not been enforced from a lot of places. For example, like what happened in California, or prosecuted, like in Chicago. And I think that's the real issue here, is that there are plenty of gun laws on the books that are not enforced. And the ones that are on there, I think it's important that we stop demonizing those who are following the law and we actually empower them instead of them making them seem like they're not doing what they're supposed to do. I want you to be empowered to be able to protect yourself from someone who wants to harm you. That's it. That's what's important to me. I don't care about your ideology or your background, whether you voted for Trump or you voted for Obama or Hillary or Bernie. Every person in this room should be able to have the right to defend themselves. But what's a travesty is that here in this room, I'm concerned because the security guards are not allowed to have arms or firearms, and then you guys are not allowed to have firearms, and then I'm not allowed to have firearms. So guess what? The only person, the only population that comes in here is able to have firearms and do it in the way that they want to. A criminal, someone who does not follow the law regardless of the law. And I'm here to say that is not right. Thank you.
So that will be the last question. And as the president of the Mount Holyoke College Republicans, I want to thank all of you guys for coming. And all the Republicans, come on up here. We have a present for Antonia.
How do you feel about what you have?
Yeah. So what do you think about the event, Miss Okafor's speech?
I think it definitely went very well, and I think the majority of reactions were real questions, and they were trying to get to the root of like why people feel this way. So I think it was constructive for all parties involved.
Fantastic. And you?
I would say that I think Antonia handled all of the variety of questions. I know we had a lot of questions that were in support of her, I guess, presentation, but then there were some where we had a little bit of heckling going on, but I think that she handled it really well, and excited to see it all.
Fantastic.
Oh, hot take? Oh, fantastic event. Fantastic speaker over there. Had a lot of great questions. I thought it was really informative. I thought, at Mount Holyoke, you don't really get that take often. So, I appreciate her coming out, and it was overall good.
I think it was good that it was sort of kept to talking about the Second Amendment and guns, because I think if it had it gone to some of her other views, there would have been a lot more controversy and it would have been a lot more heated.
Other views like two genders, there was a lot of underlying activity in the crowd when that came up.
Yeah, the two genders thing, her opinions about abortion. I think it's like one of those things where, like, since guns aren't a thing that we argue a lot about, unlike, say, gender, people have a lot less deeply held beliefs about it. They're more open, and especially because her perspective is so unique and basically unheard of up here in the Northeast, because you mostly have, like, old men with gun clubs talking about hunting and stuff.
Fantastic. Thanks a lot.